Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're uncovering 5 Australian 20-cent coins that most people would never give a second glance, but in reality, they're some of the most valuable coins in modern collecting history. From 1969 to 2010, these coins have survived decades, escaped destruction, and now, in pristine condition, are worth jaw-dropping sums. Stick around, because each coin has its own story, and some of the values will absolutely blow your mind. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss a single one. Let's get started. First up, the 1969 Australian 20-cent coin. When this coin was released, Australia was in the middle of transformation. Decimal currency was still fresh in people's minds, replacing the old pounds, shillings, and pence just a few years earlier. The 20-cent coin itself was modern, clean, and confident. A brand new size, a new metal composition, and a design that symbolized strength and unity. At the center, the iconic platypus, one of the most unique creatures on Earth, chosen to represent Australia's identity like nothing else could. The platypus design wasn't just artistic flair. It was a statement. This strange ancient animal, surviving unchanged for millions of years, mirrored Australia's own sense of resilience and independence. On the reverse, the flowing lines and textured background give the coin depth and character, while the obverse features Queen Elizabeth II, a reminder of Australia's ties to the Commonwealth during that era. Every detail was carefully considered, even if the public didn't realize it at the time. Millions of these coins entered circulation. They jingled in pockets, paid for newspapers, snacks, bus fares, and cups of tea. They passed through countless hands, scratched, worn, and forgotten. But history has a way of thinning the crowd. Over time, many were damaged, melted, or lost forever. And among what survived, only a tiny fraction retained the features collectors crave today. What makes the 1969 Australian 20-cent coin truly exciting is not just its age, but the story behind its survival. High-quality examples are incredibly difficult to find. The metal composition shows wear quickly, meaning sharp details, clean fields, and strong strikes are rare. Coins that escaped decades of rough circulation became silent time capsules, frozen exactly as they were the day they left the Royal Australian Mint. Collectors hunt for subtle differences: strike quality, luster, rim sharpness, the clarity of the platypus fur, the strength of the Queen's portrait. To the untrained eye, it looks like any other 20-cent coin. To a seasoned collector, it can be a hidden gem waiting to be discovered. This is where the thrill comes in, because this coin doesn't scream rarity. It whispers it. It hides in collections, drawers, and even old change jars, waiting for someone who knows what to look for. And when the right example surfaces, the market reacts fast. Demand surges, competition heats up, and suddenly a coin once dismissed as ordinary becomes headline-worthy. Auction rooms have proven that condition changes everything. 2 coins from the same year can live completely different lives. One barely worth a glance, the other commanding respect, attention, and serious money. That gap is what makes coin collecting addictive. The idea that history, preservation, and chance can combine into something extraordinary. Now, here's the part that makes people stop scrolling and lean closer. A top-tier example of the 1969 Australian 20-cent coin has reached a value of $36,400. Let that sink in. A coin most people would never think twice about, transformed into a serious collector prize. So next time you see a 20-cent coin, don't rush past it. Look at the date. Look at the details. Because history doesn't always wear gold or silver crowns. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, stamped into copper and nickel, waiting for the right moment to shock the world. And this is only the beginning, because this coin is just one of 5. Stay locked in, because the next coin on this list takes the story even further. Next up, the year 1980 doesn't feel ancient. It doesn't feel distant. To many people, it still feels modern. And that's exactly why this coin is so dangerous in the world of collecting. Because when something feels recent, people stop paying attention. They assume value comes only from extreme age. And that assumption is where history loves to surprise us. The 1980 Australian 20-cent coin was released during a period of confidence and momentum. Australia was growing fast. Technology was advancing. The economy was shifting. And everyday money was being produced in massive numbers to keep up with daily life. This coin wasn't meant to be special. It was meant to work, to circulate, to be spent without thought. Once again, the platypus took center stage. Calm, powerful, timeless. Its design carried over from earlier years, but don't let familiarity fool you. By 1980, minting conditions, production pressures, and metal flow all played a role in creating subtle differences that most people never noticed. Small variations that, today, separate common coins from highly desirable ones. This coin traveled everywhere. Supermarkets, parking meters, school canteens, train stations. It lived hard. It scraped against keys, clashed with other coins, and survived decades of circulation. And that rough life is exactly why high-quality survivors are so scarce today. Here's the reality collectors understand. Modern-era coins in pristine condition are often rarer than much older coins. Why? Because nobody saved them. Nobody put them away carefully. They were considered too new to matter. And while earlier dates were being hoarded and protected, coins like this one were being absolutely destroyed by everyday use. The obverse portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on this coin is especially telling. Any weakness in the strike, any flattening of hair detail, any loss of luster immediately separates an average coin from a premium example. On the reverse, the platypus must appear bold, textured, and alive. Soft details instantly drop value. Sharp details ignite interest. Collectors who specialize in Australian decimal coinage know how brutal the grading standards are for this year. Even a single bag mark can change everything. Coins that look clean to the casual eye often fall short under professional evaluation. That's why truly elite examples are chased aggressively when they appear. And when one does surface, the reaction is immediate. Competitive bidding, rising prices, quiet disbelief from those who never imagined a 1980 coin could demand serious attention. This is the kind of coin that rewrites expectations and humbles assumptions. The market has spoken clearly. A top-condition example of the 1980 Australian 20-cent coin has achieved a value of $28,600, from everyday change to five-figure territory, all because condition, history, and survival aligned perfectly. So remember this lesson. Value doesn't always live in the distant past. Sometimes it hides in the years we overlook. And sometimes the most shocking coins are the ones we thought were too ordinary to matter. And don't go anywhere, because the next coin on this list pushes that idea even further, and its story might surprise you even more. Next up, 1981 is one of those years that slips under the radar. Not old enough to feel historic, not new enough to feel special. And that is exactly why this coin became a sleeper. While collectors chased earlier dates and ignored modern circulation, the 1981 Australian 20-cent coin quietly carved out its own legacy. This coin was born into an era of speed, faster production, faster circulation, faster wear. The Royal Australian Mint was striking coins to meet everyday demand, not to create future treasures. These coins flooded wallets, tills, and pockets across the country. They were used relentlessly, with no thought of preservation. And that relentless use is what changed everything. At first glance, the design feels familiar. The iconic platypus remains strong and unmistakable, resting against the rippling lines that give the reverse its motion and depth. The obverse portrait of Queen Elizabeth II reflects a mature era of coinage, clean and precise. But here's the catch. Precision doesn't always survive circulation. The metal used for 20-cent coins during this period shows marks quickly. Every drop, every slide across a counter, every clash with another coin leaves its fingerprint. Over time, those tiny impacts erase detail, flatten texture, and dull surfaces. By the end of the decade, most 1981 coins were shadows of their original strike. That's where rarity begins. Not at the mint, but in survival. Finding a 1981 20-cent coin with sharp rims, blazing luster, and untouched fields is like finding a moment frozen in time. Collectors search for clean platypus detail, visible fur texture, and strong definition in the Queen's portrait. Anything less, and the coin blends back into the crowd. What makes this year particularly fascinating is how deceptive it is. To the average person, it looks like loose change. To a trained eye, it's a test of patience, knowledge, and luck. Because when a truly exceptional example appears, it doesn't last long. Collectors know exactly what they're looking at. Auction history has shown that demand for pristine decimal coins continues to rise. As older examples disappear into permanent collections, competition intensifies, and coins from overlooked years like 1981 suddenly step into the spotlight. This is where perception shifts, because when the condition is right, this coin stops being ordinary. It stops being background noise. It becomes a standout piece in Australian numismatic history. A premium-grade example of the 1981 Australian 20-cent coin has reached a value of $23,200. A powerful reminder that rarity is not always about age, but about survival against the odds. So before you dismiss a coin because it feels too modern, think again. History doesn't announce itself loudly. Sometimes it waits quietly until the market finally listens. And stay right here, because the next coin on this list continues this pattern of shock, and its story takes the hunt to another level. Next up, the year 1996 feels recent. Too recent, most people think, for anything valuable to exist. That belief has caused more rare coins to be ignored than almost any other mistake in numismatic history. And the 1996 Australian 20-cent coin is a perfect example of how modern coins can quietly become legends. By the mid-90s, Australia was fully settled into decimal currency. Coins were everywhere. Minting technology was advanced. Production numbers were high, and nobody imagined that a coin from this era would ever be worth more than its face value. These coins were born into speed. They moved fast, circulated hard, and disappeared into daily life without ceremony. The platypus design was now deeply familiar, almost invisible to the public eye. People stopped looking, but collectors never stopped watching, because even with improved minting technology, perfection was still rare. In fact, it became harder to find. Modern coins were struck cleanly, yes, but they were also handled immediately, stacked, transported, and released at lightning speed. That process alone destroyed countless potential high-grade examples before they ever reached circulation. The metal tells the story. 20-cent coins from this period are unforgiving. Any contact leaves marks. Any friction dulls the surface. Any careless moment erases luster forever. As a result, most 1996 coins today show wear, scratches, or weak visual appeal. Truly pristine survivors are shockingly scarce. Collectors search obsessively for flawless fields, sharp rims, and a platypus that still looks alive with texture and depth. The Queen's portrait must remain crisp, with no flattening or haze. When all of those elements come together, the coin stops being modern change and starts becoming a modern masterpiece. What makes this coin especially fascinating is how it challenges logic. People assume modern equals common, but common coins are often the hardest to find in perfect condition because no one protects them. While older coins were saved, admired, and stored, coins like this one were abused by everyday life. As years passed, collectors began to realize something critical. High-grade examples of late 20th century coins were disappearing fast. Once grading services confirmed just how few elite specimens existed, demand surged. Competition intensified. Prices climbed quietly. Then suddenly, the market doesn't care about assumptions. It only cares about rarity, condition, and demand. And this coin checked all three boxes. An exceptional example of the 1996 Australian 20-cent coin has achieved a value of $19,700, a number that forces people to rethink everything they thought they knew about modern coins. So the next time someone tells you modern change can't be valuable, remember this coin. Because history isn't finished being written. Sometimes, it's hiding in the most unexpected years of all. And don't blink now. One final coin remains, and it closes this list with a story that brings everything together. Next up, the 2010 Australian 20-cent coin. Now we reach the coin that breaks every rule people think they understand about value, age, and rarity. Because if you believe coins need decades or centuries to become important, this one is about to flip that belief upside down. The 2010 Australian 20-cent coin was born into a world already turning its back on cash. Digital payments were rising. Coins were being handled less carefully, moved more aggressively, and processed entirely by machines. This wasn't the gentle circulation of the past. This was high-speed, high-impact modern circulation, and it was brutal. From the moment these coins left the mint, they were stacked, bagged, shipped, counted, sorted, and released with almost no human touch. Every stage added risk. Every machine added marks. Every drop added damage. Perfection didn't slowly fade away. It disappeared almost instantly. The design itself carried decades of tradition. The iconic platypus still dominated the reverse, calm and confident, surrounded by fine, rippling lines that demand precision to survive untouched. On the obverse, Queen Elizabeth II appeared crisp and modern, representing continuity in an era of change. But this design, as familiar as it looked, became incredibly unforgiving under modern conditions. Even microscopic flaws mattered. A faint scuff in the field, a tiny nick on the rim, a single dull patch where luster should explode. These weren't small issues. They were deal breakers. Because modern collectors chase absolute perfection, and modern coins rarely deliver it. What makes the 2010 20-cent coin fascinating is how fast the illusion of abundance collapsed. Yes, millions were struck. Yes, millions entered circulation. But elite survivors? Almost none. Coins that avoided machine marks, bag friction, and careless handling became instant anomalies. Collectors began noticing something strange. Grading populations stayed low, shockingly low. While people assumed modern coins would flood the market in perfect condition, the opposite happened. The system destroyed them faster than ever before. And once collectors realized that supply at the top was incredibly tight, demand ignited. This coin became a symbol of a new collecting reality. A reality where age is no longer the main driver of value. Condition is king. Survival is everything. And modern circulation is more dangerous than any century-old pocket. Auction results told the story clearly. When a flawless 2010 Australian 20-cent coin appeared, it didn't sit quietly. It drew attention. It attracted competition. It forced seasoned collectors to rethink their assumptions. Because this wasn't nostalgia driving demand. This was mathematics. Too few coins, too many collectors, and no way to recreate perfection. The most shocking part is how invisible this coin still is to the general public. It doesn't look rare. It doesn't feel historic. It blends in effortlessly with everyday change. And that invisibility is exactly what makes it powerful, because history doesn't always announce itself with age. Sometimes, it arrives wearing the mask of normality. A top-tier example of the 2010 Australian 20-cent coin has reached a value of $15,300, a number that forces even experienced collectors to pause and reconsider what modern coinage is truly capable of. So here's the takeaway that ties everything together. The rare coins of the future are not always locked in the past. Some of them are still hiding in plain sight, still underestimated, still overlooked. And the 2010 Australian 20-cent coin stands as proof that in the world of coins, the next legend may already be in your hands.